Hey everyone, what's up? My name is Sean and I'm a content creator and designer, and I'm teaming up with Bravo again to bring you this masterclass. Now in this masterclass, we're going to go over a few new things and we're going to be growing upon the things that we learned from the last one that we did. So in the first one, we kind of went through the basics of Figma, how to design an app, and how to actually move that app from Figma into Bravo and view it using the Bravo Vision app. Now in this masterclass, we're going to take it a step further. We're going to learn a little bit about APIs, how we can use Airtable, where we can actually build a database with different data inside of it, and how we can actually connect that to Bravo. And then from there, we can actually use that database in Bravo and connect it to our app. This means that we don't have to keep designing page on page on page whenever we want to add things to our design. With the use of Airtable and their API and connecting it to Bravo, we're going to learn to create templated pages, and then using the data from Airtable, we can then populate all that information in our app without having to design any more pages. So without wasting any more time, let's jump onto the computer and I'll show you folks how to do this. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at our Figma designs, and I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that I use in order to create a design that we can fill in with data later on. Now, again, we're going to be using Airtable to create a database, and we're going to be using that data to populate different list items and populate the detail and the instructions for our recipe. So normally, if you didn't have a database and you wanted to make a recipe app, you would go ahead and, let's make this a little bigger, say we had, I don't know, 5 recipes. You would actually, create a list of all these recipes, and you would just keep going down this list until you had all the recipes that you wanted. But then the issue becomes, you publish your app and then you want to add 5 more recipes. If you do it this way, you're going to have to come back into Figma, design and copy 5 more of these, and on top of that, for each of these pages that you link, you're going to have to create a dedicated detail page for each one of these items that you create. And that's one, gonna make your app and your file of your application really large, and you don't want that. And another one is you're gonna have to always come back to Figma to do a design anytime you want to add it. Now that's a downside, because one, again, you're just duplicating element that you already have, so there's no sense in making copies over and over again. If you are familiar with any type of code, normally when you're repeating the same type of code over and over, something's wrong and there's something you can simplify. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to learn how to create these templated pages and populate our design elements from the data that we get from our database. So in my home screen here, in my final app, I'm going to have a list of all the different recipes that my app is going to have. But I only need to create one element. So I have this one block with one recipe inside. It's going to have the recipe name, and it's going to have an image of whatever the recipe is. Now this recipe name text and this image are just placeholders for now. When we get to connecting our information, we'll go ahead and replace those. If I take a look right here at this frame, so it's my recipe, it's a container right here. It has the recipe photo and the recipe name. It has the background blocks, which are this white and magenta colored block here. Now you'll notice that in front of recipe name and recipe photo, I actually put 2 stars. I do this for any element that I'm going to be replacing with data from my database in Bravo. And the reason I do it, and I'll get to it when we come to it later on in this video, but it just makes it easier to know what elements I'm actually going to be replacing. So anytime I have something that I'm going to change, again, I add those 2 stars to it. Now that's all I need to do for my home page. Basically, this is the element that's going to duplicate for each item or recipe I have in my database. Now I have a detail screen, and it's very similar. I'm going to have the name of the recipe up top. I'm going to have a image of my recipe here, and then I'm going to have down here the instructions of how to create that recipe. So we'll take a little look into the details of everything. I have my header here. In my header, you'll see I have the 2 stars and the recipe name, because I'm going to make sure that that changes to the name of the recipe later on. And in my content container here, I have the instructions with 2 stars, because that's where the recipe instructions are going to go. And the same thing for the photo right here. So again, each of the detail pages are going to look like this. Exact same thing, just a different photo, different name for the recipe, and depending on the instructions, they'll be filled out in here. So that's going to be it for our app design. Again, this is a way of building templated designs that we're going to add data into later on. Now, we will come back to this in a little bit, but now that we have that set up, what we're going to do first is we're going to create our database in Airtable. Now you can go to airtable.com, go ahead, create an account if you don't already have one. Once you create an account, you'll be introduced to a dashboard that looks like this. Now you may have some demo databases up here. What we're going to do is go to add a base right over here, this plus symbol. We're going to click on that. We're going to do start from scratch. Now, when you first open up the database, you may have the option to name it. So we're going to name it my recipe. Recipe, and then we'll put app. My recipe app. I'm going to make it blue. And there you go. Now you can see our database name is my recipe app. If you come to the left corner here, you'll see we have a table, which is what we see right here. I'm going to rename this table to recipes, because this is going to be our list of recipes that I'm going to have. Now they do have a kind of introduction spreadsheet here. We don't need these 3 on the right, so we're going to go ahead, right click on the columns, and we're just going to delete the fields. We are going to keep the first one though. Right, so the first one right here, we can actually right click and rename, and I'm going to make it more specific, and I'm going to say recipe name. Oops. Alright. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we plan out and know what our database is going to be structured like. Now if I come back to my Figma design, we can kind of look at what information are we going to need. So if we look here on our home page and the list of our recipes, we know we need a recipe name and a recipe image. But if we look at our details screen, we have name and image again, but we're also going to need the instructions of how to make whatever recipe it is. So if we come back here, so we have recipe name, right? We can add one for recipe image. What we'll do is in the column next to it, we'll hit that plus add field. We can name it, so this is going to be recipe image, and down here you can select a bunch of different field types. Now depending on what type of data you want to, this column to take, in this case an image is going to be an attachment, so we're going to select that, and we're going to hit create a field, and you can see it adds an attachment file, and it's going to be a recipe image. Now we can go ahead and add one more field. This one's going to be our recipe instructions. And for this one, we're not going to do a single line of text because our instructions aren't going to be one step, they're multiple steps. So right below that there is another one, and it's called long text. So if we do that, we can hit create a field. And now we have recipe name, image, and recipe instructions. So now that we have our database set up, we're going to go ahead and fill in the data for each of these sections. I'm only going to do 3 just for this example, but of course you can fill it in with as much things as you need to. So I'm going to come back once I have this all filled up. Alright, so now that I have all the data inside of this, you can see I have 3 recipes here. I have images for each one, and for the instructions, if I click on one, I can expand it, and you can see that I have instructions for the recipes there. So this again is going to be the data that we pull to put into our actual application. Now the next thing we have to do is connect this Airtable database to Bravo so that we can pull the information that we have here. So go ahead and go to your Bravo dashboard. You should be signed in right here. Now on the left hand side, instead of projects, we're going to go to data library. Looks like I have one here already, so I'm just going to delete this so I can show you folks again. Let me just go ahead and delete that. Alright. So when you come to your data library here, this is where you can add in your different databases that you want to connect to your apps in Bravo. So we're going to have to create a new collection. You can either come down here or in the upper right hand corner, you can select new collection. Now this is where you can connect to any API that you want. So if you come to custom API and you have another service that you want to connect to and you have their API and token keys, you can actually go ahead and create your own connection right here. But the cool thing with Airtable is Bravo has a integrated way of adding Airtable really easy with just a few simple steps. So go ahead, click on Airtable. Now the first thing we're going to have to do is enter your base share link. Now you can see a little video here that shows you exactly where to get it, but we're basically going to come back to our Airtable section here. In the right corner area, you're going to have a share button. We're going to select the base, and if we scroll down a little, this pink area right here, we're actually going to copy that URL. Okay, you can close out of this. We'll go back to the Bravo app and we're going to paste that URL right there and then hit continue. Next, we're going to have to enter the API key, and this is going to help us verify and authenticate that this is us connecting to Airtable. So again, you can follow the video, but if you come back to Airtable, come to the upper right to your account and hit the account tab here. And then it'll bring you to your account overview, and what you're going to want to do is copy and paste this key right over here, right? And once you have it copied, go back to Bravo, paste that key inside, and then hit complete. You're going to make sure, Bravo's going to make sure everything is good, and once everything is completed, you can go ahead and hit continue. So now you can see here that Bravo has set up a database that connects to the My Recipes app from Airtable. You can see the GET request for your API to Airtable here. You have your authorization key, and what Bravo does is actually creates 2 requests that we're going to be using, a list and a detail. But I'll get into that in a little bit. So once we have our database set up, now we can actually bind this information to our application. So what we're going to do is go back to our projects. You're going to select the app that you want to connect the data to. So I have my recipe app here. Now in here you should see your 3 different screens. We're going to start off with the home screen. So if I click on my home screen here, alright, so now that we have our home screen selected, we can go ahead and start binding data to it. So right over here in the number 1, we're going to have to select our request. So first we're going to select our data collection here. So we do the drop down, it's going to be the My Recipes app. Now the second one, we're going to do a request. Now this one is our home page, and remember, in our home page we want the list of recipes. So we don't want the details, right? We don't want the instructions and everything. We just want to create our list. So we're going to hit the list request here. So now Bravo knows which information to pull. Now we need to tell Bravo what element on our home screen is it going to duplicate for each item in our list. And that's going to be this recipe section here. Let me make this a little wider. So if we select recipe here, you'll see on the right side here, it's going to give us the option to bind a certain element. So in this drop down where it says none, we're going to select records. This tells Bravo, look at our records, see how many different recipes we have, and create one of these elements for each of those recipes. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is make sure that for each one of those elements it creates, that it has the correct image and name attached to it. Now remember how in the design I added those 2 stars? If you look right over here, you can see those 2 stars are shown here. And again, this is just a tip that I use that makes it really easy to know what items to select in Bravo. Because we can't visually see what we're selecting like we do in Figma, it's easier when I add those 2 stars. So we'll do the name first. If we select that, come to the right side here, we're going to have to select which data point to connect it to. So in this drop down, you're going to have all the different things we can connect it to. Now you're going to see a lot of different thumbnails and images. Just know that this is Airtable's way of selecting different sizes of the image, but we're only going to need to use one. But for this one, because it's recipe name, we're going to select recipe name. Now for recipe photo down here, again, a bunch of different thumbnails and things are going to pop up. Just know that you can select recipe image URL, and that's the one you can select if you're going to be selecting and using images. So with this setup here, we should be able to open up our app, and this will populate for each one of those recipes that we have. So in this case, we should have 3. Now we have one more screen that we need to do, so we can hit back, and we're going to go ahead and go to our details screen here. Again, similar to how we did on the home screen, we're going to select the My Recipe collection, My Recipes app. And then for the request, we're not going to select list. This time we're going to select detail. And now we need to tell Bravo what to fill in for each one of these things. So remember, I have recipe 1 in my header here. Again, the 2 stars. I can hit this drop down. I'm going to select recipe name. In the content area, I have the photo, which I'll connect to the photo. And in this instructions area, I have the recipe instructions right over here. So I'm just selecting what data I want to replace that information on my app screen. Awesome. So now that we have all of that set up, I'm going to go ahead and open up the Bravo Vision app, and we're going to double check and make sure everything is working. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open up the Bravo Vision app. And then right there, once it's loaded, we're going to go ahead and go to our recipe app right here. And what you'll see is our 3 different recipes right here. So again, we only created this top section, but with everything we did with connecting to Airtable, we're able to populate as much recipes as you want, and you can see all the names and images follow the information from Airtable. Now if we select one of these it'll load a detail page again with the recipe name, the image, the instructions. If I go back and select another recipe, it'll have the same layout, but again, it'll have a fruit smoothie, image, and different instructions there. Awesome. So now we're gonna go ahead and add one final thing to our app, and that's some reveal animations whenever our page opens up. So we have some page reveal animations that Bravo has, and they have some special tags that we can use. So if you folks ever want to check out the list of Bravo tags, Bravo has a Notion documentation called the Bravo Tags Master List, and it has all the different tags that you can use in Bravo. For this one, we are going to scroll down to the reveal page animations, and you'll see that there are quite a few animations we can choose from. Now each animation kind of has 3 levels of intensity. There's a light, medium, and heavy, and you can do different animations from fading in to spinning to sliding in from different directions. We're actually going to do the slide bottom, and I'm just going to choose the light version. So for me, I'm just going to copy and paste it because I don't have to type it all out. And what we're going to do is take a look at our Figma design here. Now the way page animations work is they go on, the tag is going to be placed in your main frame of your design. So for the home screen, it's going to go into this main home screen section here. Now I can go ahead and paste that there. But for the animation, we are going to need one more tag, and that is the page tag. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the page tag as well. So again, right in the home screen, the top, the main frame. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the detail screen. I'm just going to go ahead and paste that whole section there. And what this is going to allow us to see is some cool animations. So basically when the page loads, they're going to kind of slide in instead of just popping up right in our faces. So again, I'm going to go back to the Bravo Vision app and show you folks how the animations work. Alright, so to see the page animations, if I tap on a page, you'll see that they come in nice and easy. Actually, just to show you folks the difference, I'm gonna go ahead and take out the animation from the page detail, and let me go ahead and reload this. So if I select a page, you can see the the detail screen right now does not have an animation, so it just pops in. But if I go back to the home screen, you'll see how it fades down and it has a slight animation to it, whereas the detail page just kind of slides in, no animations. So animations, the page reveals, are a great way to kind of give that premium feel to your app. And there you go. Now you're able to connect another no-code application, Airtable, to your Bravo app, and now you can go ahead and create databases to take your app further. I hope you folks enjoyed this master class. I'm happy to be back working together again with Bravo. And again, if you folks want to learn a little bit more about Bravo, don't forget to follow me on social media. You can follow me on Instagram here. Also, don't forget to check out Bravo on their Instagram and their website. They're always coming out with brand new features and things that you can implement into your apps. And thank you again for joining me in this masterclass. I hope you folks enjoy it. See ya.